that I came up with when going through all the speeches that we've written. So we found that it's easier to type the speech on a computer, because then when you first write the speech, it'll be really long. The time limit is 5 minutes, and they give you a grace period of 30 seconds, so you have to wrap up the speech by then. And there's 5 questions, so it'll take about a minute per question. And usually it takes, when they first start saying the speech, it usually takes maybe 8 minutes, 9 minutes, and then you have to cut it down. So if you've typed it up, it's a lot easier just to make changes to it. Second point is to answer the questions in the order that they've asked them. You can answer them in any order you want, but for the judges, it's easier for them to judge you if you're answering in the order that they've given them. And start and end your speeches with the Fateh. Who knows what the Fateh is? Yeah. Who knows? Very good. That's the Fateh. So start your speech with the Fateh and end the speech with the Fateh. I've noticed when some kids are doing the speeches, they'll start saying that give their name and some other information relevant about them. Because you only have a small amount of time, you don't want to waste it on irrelevant facts like that. So you basically just want to start your speech and start answering the speech rather than tell about yourself, because the judges already know who you are. So what we usually do is answer a question on each page. So when they do come up at the podium, then they know that which question they're on. It's a lot easier. Make the font bigger, so it's easy for them to read, so they can bring the speech with them. It's advisable that they bring the speech with them, even if they have memorized it, because sometimes they get nervous. And if they have the speech in front of them, they can always look down. I try to use, since this is a younger age group, use simpler words so that your child can pronounce them easily. Don't try to use hard words, because they'll just struggle pronouncing them. So you don't want to complicate things. Another point is make sure you've answered every question. Like in question 2, I think it was that by Manj, what lesson do you learn? So the question is actually, what lesson do you learn? So they do want you to summarize the story, but they also want to know, the question is, what lesson did you learn? So you want to make sure that you answered the lesson I learned about Bhai Manj's story is, and then selfless seva, or whatever you want to write. So for each question, try and add a relevant Gurbani quote. So like for the Bhai Manj story, it's about doing selfless seva. So a quote that you can use is Satgur ki seva safal hai, je ko kare jitlaye. That's just an example. And the Bhai Bhikhari story was about hukam and the will of God. So another quote about hukam that you can use is hukam hai andar sabko, bahar hukam na koe. So we usually use Sikhi to the max to get quotes, because you can type in words like seva or hukam, and then it will list all the Gurbani quotes with that word in there, and it has the meanings. So that's a great resource to use. So this is just an example at the start of a speech. This is an example from one of the speeches we had written, and this was about Guru Nanak Dev Ji. So we started at the top of the line was Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh, so that's the Fateh. And then we, I think this was maybe for group 2, so they have a little more time, so we added a quote at the beginning of the speech. And so it basically just summarizes the whole speech. So since this was about Guru Nanak Dev Ji, we used Satguru Nanak Pragatya Miti Tum Jag Janan Hua. So that was just a summary of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And then another example in the speech, when you're writing the Gurbani quote, you want to make it relevant to the message that you're trying to convey. So in this part of the speech, the paragraph was, some people think that God can only be found in some religious places. However, the Sakhi teaches me that God is everywhere. So then we added the quote, Kat kat mein harju base santan kyo pukar. And so that just says that God is everywhere. So it's just emphasizing the previous paragraph. That's it. Okay.